You agree with me that your grandson is substantially well off, correct?
He might used to be, but if he could make a $2 million bond, he'd be out.
Would you agree with me, though, that there's a difference between can, want to, and choosing not to?
I'm aware of all of those things, but I know he don't want to be in here, so I know if he could afford it, he'd be out.
And he has houses in other states, correct?
And I'm not aware of that.
Are you aware of him paying and helping to support other individuals in the family and also extended family and friends?
I'm not into his business like that.
It's been barely 6 days since Yella Bay got checked into Dallas County Jail for allegedly ordering the hit on MO3, and word on the street is, he ain't built for this life. Already whispers are getting louder. Sources close to the situation say Bay's been seriously struggling behind bars. He's pushing hard for bail like his freedom is hanging by a thread. And let's be real, anyone who knows anything about the nightmare that is Dallas County Jail can see exactly why he's desperate to get out. They don't call it the worst jail in all of Texas just to be dramatic. That title is earned. Yella Bay's arrest on capital murder charges has shaken the rap world to its core, sending fans and insiders into full-blown shock mode. It's not just another arrest. This is one of those headlines that hits different. Bay, known for his flashy image and street legend energy, now locked up in one of the toughest jails around. It's a wild fall from grace, and it's playing out in real time. Inside those jail walls, it's pure chaos. Plain, brutal, and overwhelming. Dallas County Jail is a beast. For someone like Bay, who's used to lights, money, and VIP treatment, this new reality is a nightmare. The overcrowding is on a whole other level. Cells that were built for 8 people are now crammed with up to 40. That's not just uncomfortable. That's a full-blown crisis. People are stacked in like sardines, fighting for space, sleep, and even a sliver of peace.
I mean, a lot of people in here keep it real nasty. You know, they don't really clean as often. They don't care. I mean, this is the last stop of the jail for all the worst of the worst.
Comfort? That ain't even on the list. The air inside is freezing, like someone set the AC to Arctic mode just to see who can tough it out. It's so cold, inmates are shivering through the night, wrapping up in thin sheets like it's winter in the middle of August. And the noise? Non-stop chaos. Sound bounces off those concrete walls like a trap beat on full blast. It's so bad, prisoners are shoving toilet paper in their ears just to get a few seconds of silence. Privacy? What privacy? That word don't exist in there. The special response teams, known as SRTs, run the jail like it's boot camp.
A lot of guys, they still, do dope, they run the dope houses from inside the jails, a lot of kingpins, so it is an important item inside the jail.
Guards tear through their stuff with zero care. It's all about control and dignity. That's been thrown out the window a long time ago. For the past 5 years, Dallas County Jail's been catching heat for constantly failing state inspections. The Texas Commission on Jail Standards keeps calling them out for serious issues, but nothing ever seems to change. The problems just keep stacking up no matter how many times they've been warned. Let's talk February 2022. Things got real ugly. Inspectors stayed 4 days inside that jail, and what they uncovered was wild. One of the biggest issues? How staff handled suicidal inmates. On paper, it looked like they were keeping close watch. But when inspectors rolled the surveillance footage, it told a whole different story.
But wait a minute, but people think you the person that killed Mo3. They think you did it.
It's a million ways to do it. I ain't got no tattoo on my neck. I'm not big tall, and I'm very sure what this is.
Some inmates were even caught using contraband to jam them open, making them completely useless. This mess has been swept under the rug for way too long. Let's talk about the North Tower. Folks inside have been choking on a nasty burning smell for months. Staff claimed it was from inmates lighting up K2, that synthetic weed, and burning coffee grounds to mask the stench. But whatever's really going on, the result is the same. People stuck inside are breathing in toxic smoke every single day. And get this. Even after all that, inspectors didn't call for any immediate action. Nothing. So inmates and even staff were left to keep inhaling who knows what, like it's just another Tuesday. That ain't just neglect, that's dangerous. The hygiene situation? Straight up foul. Over in the West Tower, things were looking real bad. Laundry for inmates in crisis care wasn't even getting changed properly. The laundry workers weren't doing their jobs, so floor officers had to step in and do it themselves. That's a red flag if there ever was one. That whole setup was clearly falling apart. And then there's the South Tower. Oh man. Back in March and April of 2021, the jail was supposed to run routine tests on their emergency generators. But surprise, they didn't. No tests, no maintenance, nothing. So if the power ever cuts out, there's no telling if those backups will actually kick in. That's a full-blown disaster just waiting to strike. With ongoing renovations eating up bed space, the jail's turning into a pressure cooker. Fewer beds mean more bodies squeezed into tighter spaces, and it's gotten so bad that the county's actually exploring temporary setups just to keep up. Throw in constant AC breakdowns, and it doesn't even feel like jail anymore. It feels like straight-up survival mode. Sweating through summer nights and battling freezing air the next? That's not correctional, that's chaotic. And let's not even start on the legal side of things, because that's a disaster in its own right. Inmates trying to defend themselves are barely getting access to the law library. How are they supposed to fight their cases when they can't even get the basic tools? And legal mail, which is supposed to be 100% private, is reportedly being opened without the inmate even being there. That's a huge violation, and it's happening way too often. Then there's the delays. Motions take forever to process. It's like the system is built to keep people stuck, locked in, and totally helpless. For some, it's not even about guilt or innocence anymore. It's about surviving long enough to even get a fair shot in court. And while all this is going on, there's buzz going around that Yella Beezy might be too broke to bond out. That's right, despite the flashy image, rumors say he doesn't have the cash to cover that massive $2 million bond. That number alone showed just how serious the charges are, but in court things took a surprising twist. Bezy's grandmother, Alma Jean Alexander, stepped up and delivered a powerful statement that turned heads. She didn't just plead, she challenged the whole picture the prosecutors were painting, saying Bezy ain't living the rich life they're claiming. In the end, Judge Gracie Lewis made a bold move. She sided with Bezy and slashed his bond from $2 million down to $750,000. But that break came with some serious strings attached. Bezy's been strictly banned from contacting any victims or witnesses, and the judge didn't hold back when warning him to take the financial disclosure process very seriously. She made it crystal clear, any funny business with the money and he'd be right back behind bars. Prosecutors didn't go easy. They tried to lay it all out, painting Bezy as someone with deep pockets and dangerous reach. They argued he had more than enough money and resources to vanish if things got too hot. They pointed to his bulletproof Denali, not just a ride, but a symbol of wealth, power, and protection. And then there was the money trail. Nearly $870,000 sitting across his checking and savings accounts back in 2020. Prosecutors claimed that kind of cash screams motive and means, the kind of financial muscle needed to plan and pay for a murder for hire. And this isn't just some regular charge. Capital murder is one of the heaviest crimes in the book. And Texas? They don't play with that. If Bezy gets convicted, he's staring down two terrifying options: life in prison without parole, or the death penalty. That's it. No second chances, no early release, just a dark future, locked away from the world forever. Texas law throws the capital murder charge when certain deadly boxes get checked, like killing a police officer, a firefighter, or a child under 10. It also applies when the murder's tied to another felony: kidnapping, robbery, retaliation, or a murder for hire. One of the biggest triggers for a capital murder charge, a murder for hire setup. And that's exactly the kind of trouble Yella Beezy's wrapped up in. To show just how serious this is, look no further than Lil Durk's own headline-making case. Dirk Derek Banks, yeah, that Lil Durk, got snatched up by U.S. Marshals in South Florida, tied to a federal complaint filed all the way in California. And guess what it was about? A murder for hire plot. This wild ride started with a long-standing beef between Dirk and a man known as TB. But things went from tense to deadly after the tragic murder of Dirk's close friend and OTF crew member, Davin Bennett, aka King Von. On November 6, 2020, Vaughn was gunned down outside a club, and word is, the shooter was someone tied to TB. That loss hit Dirk hard, and folks close to the situation say it sparked a dangerous thirst for revenge. The streets started buzzing, people claiming Dirk put a price on TB's head to avenge Vaughn's death. This wasn't just about anger, it was about retaliation. And when someone like Dirk moves like that, things don't stay quiet for long. Nearly 2 years later, things exploded. On August 19th, 2022, things took a turn for the worse. Allegedly, under Dirk's direction, several OTF affiliates tracked TB down at a gas station in Los Angeles. No words, no warning, just bullets. Reports say they unleashed at least 18 rounds at TB's vehicle, turning that gas station into a war zone. A senior member of TB's family was caught in the crossfire and fatally shot in broad daylight. Right there in the middle of a busy intersection, bullets were flying while innocent people were just trying to get through their day. That ain't just bold, that's cold-blooded. U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada didn't sugarcoat it. He called it exactly what it was, a heartless execution that showed zero regard for human life. Now Lil Durk and 5 others are staring down a laundry list of heavy charges. We're talking murder, murder for hire, and conspiracy to commit murder for hire resulting in death. And as if that wasn't wild enough, prosecutors claim the hit squad was bankrolled with funds directly linked to Durk and his OTF crew. Allegedly, 5 people were flown out from Chicago to Los Angeles just one day before the hit went down, locked in and ready to take out TB. And Durk, he allegedly made sure the flight bookings left no trace. No names tied to him, no digital trail. It was a ghost move, slick and silent. But let's be real. Where there's smoke, there's always fire. The feds didn't waste time. Right after the hit, they swooped in with search warrants on OTF-connected spots. And what they found? It peeled back the layers of a deep, calculated operation. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment crime. It was planned, funded, and executed with precision. Durk's first court appearance went down at the C. Clyde Atkins U.S. Courthouse in Miami, and his lawyer, Alec Ubieta, played it cool. Kept everything on lock, refusing to spill anything to the press. But with arraignment set to unfold in Los Angeles federal court, this thing is far from over. The pressure is sky high. Things got even messier in December 2024 during a detention hearing that dropped a serious bombshell. Unsealed court documents linked Lil Durk to another murder-for-hire plot, this one tied to the January 2022 shooting of Stephen Mack in Chicago. That's 2 murder-for-hires hanging over his head. With trial set for October 2025 and bail denied, Durk's locked in and waiting to face some of the heaviest charges imaginable. But all eyes aren't just on Durk. Yella Beezy's name has reemerged in a big way. What's unsettling is that MO3 was murdered back in 2020, and it's taken nearly 5 years for prosecutors to officially connect Bey to the case. The question everyone's asking, why now? Bey and MO3 had a public heated beef for years. They didn't hide it. So what made prosecutors suddenly pull the trigger and charge Bey now? Even more suspicious, some are wondering if Q1, a name being whispered behind the scenes, already flipped and gave info to the feds. But if that's true, then why is Yella Beezy still facing the heat? Something isn't adding up, and people are starting to ask if there's more to this story than anyone's letting on. Let's rewind to that tragic day in November 2020, the day the rap game lost MO3, real name Melvin Noble. That morning was like any other, until it wasn't. MO3 was driving down Interstate 35 in Dallas when he noticed a car trailing him. The tension shot up fast. He knew something wasn't right. Panicked, MO3 pulled over and jumped out, running down the highway on foot and trying to escape. But what followed was a scene straight out of a nightmare. The shooter chased him in broad daylight, right there in front of stunned drivers. Then the shots started flying. Multiple gunshots echoed through the traffic, and MO3 collapsed on the concrete. It was a brutal execution, right there on a busy freeway, and it shook the city to its core. MO3 was fatally wounded, gunned down in broad daylight on one of Dallas's busiest highways. A hit so bold, so reckless, it left witnesses frozen and cops scrambling for answers. The streets lit up with speculation. Some believed it was the fallout from MO3's deep-rooted beefs in the streets. Others were convinced it was a targeted hit, driven by envy, rap rivalries, or some unresolved drama from his past that finally exploded. The Dallas Police Department didn't waste a second. They jumped into a full-blown investigation, determined to bring MO3's killer to justice. And within days, they dropped a major clue: surveillance images of the suspect rocking a ski mask, caught just moments before the shooting. Those photos were the game changer. Suddenly, the pieces started lining up. That masked figure? Authorities say it was 22-year-old Q1 Dontrell White, a name that wasn't new to them. White already had a rap sheet. At the time of MO3's murder, he was out on bond for a felony gun charge and a misdemeanor for evading arrest. He wasn't just known to the system, he was walking the streets with serious heat still pending. As investigators kept digging, the evidence against White started piling up. Video footage placed him at the scene, not just before the shooting, but right as it went down. Witnesses began coming forward, and their stories matched up with what police already had. It all pointed straight to White as the shooter. MO3 was cruising down the interstate when everything went sideways. Q-on White pulled up, hopped out, and went straight into attack mode, chasing MO3 down like it was a scene out of an action flick. The moment MO3 realized what was happening, he ditched the car and tried to escape on foot. But White wasn't backing off. He chased him relentlessly, squeezing off multiple rounds until MO3 collapsed, fatally hit. And he wasn't the only one caught in the chaos. Another man was wounded in the crossfire, showing just how reckless and wild the shooting really was. This wasn't just an assassination. It was an all-out street execution right in front of everybody. The violence shook Dallas to the core. In the days that followed, even Dallas Police Chief U. Renee Hall stepped up, publicly admitting the city was seeing a serious spike in violent crimes. She didn't hesitate to call in backup, turning to the FBI to help shut it down before things got even more out of hand. Then, on December 9th, 2020, everything came to a head. Q-on White was taken into federal custody, facing charges for murder and possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. The feds weren't playing. The case was airtight and the evidence had him cornered. He got hit with an indictment and the streets knew it was serious. But White's arrest wasn't clean or quiet. Federal agents and Dallas police tracked him down to Oak Cliff, where he tried to make a wild getaway. First on a dirt bike, then on foot. But he didn't get far. When they finally tackled him, they found a 9mm pistol stuffed in his pocket, just adding more weight to his already stacked charges. Just when the case seemed to be locked in, it took another sharp twist. The U.S. Attorney's Office dropped a bomb. A known associate of Q-on White, 27-year-old Devin Maurice Brown, was now facing federal charges of his own, tied to drug and firearms offenses. When feds searched Brown's home, they found a whole stash, a stolen assault-style rifle, synthetic cannabinoids, meth, and other illegal goods. This wasn't some minor connection. This discovery opened up a whole new layer in the investigation. Even though officials kept tight-lipped about the depth of Brown and White's relationship, they didn't need to say much. The paper trail spoke volumes. What pushed Brown over the edge? According to reports, MO3 had gotten a little too close to a certain woman in Brown's life, and when MO3 dropped a Facebook video with her, that was it. That one post lit the match. From that point on, Brown's grudge started boiling, and it didn't take long for things to spiral. Before the fatal shooting, Brown was already trying to track MO3 down. He even reached out to a witness, trying to figure out where the rapper would be. This wasn't a moment of rage. It was a full-on mission. And when the day came, Brown wasn't just angry, he was locked in, ready to settle it for good. Turns out, the link between Brown and White wasn't just coincidence. Investigators found that the two had been in contact through a series of phone calls, including on the day of the murder. But when questioned, White tried to distance himself completely.
Let me say this first. Rainwater, my manager, is not no street. Let me say it again. Rainwater, my manager, is not no street. He graduated high school and went to college, sir. Sir, you get what I'm saying?
He denied knowing Brown, even claimed he forgot his number, but by then, the damage was done and the calls were already on record. The plot thickened fast when prosecutors claimed that Yella Beezy didn't just beef with MO3, he allegedly hired the hitmen, Q-on White, to take him out. While the exact motive is still murky, the clues stacking up point to something cold, calculated, and premeditated. MO3's murder wasn't just a moment of rage, it's looking more and more like part of a deeper, darker setup. And just when people thought things couldn't get any crazier, a huge twist dropped. Only 2 days after MO3 was gunned down in broad daylight, on November 13th, 2020, Yella Beezy made a suspicious move. He pulled $40,000 in cash straight out of his personal bank account. The timing? Way too close to the shooting for it to be ignored. That sudden withdrawal raised serious flags for investigators. What was he planning to do with that much cash? Was it meant as payment? A getaway stash? Nobody knew. But law enforcement wanted answers. Then came the witnesses. People who had seen Beezy acting real off in the days leading up to that bank visit. Nervous, twitchy, like he knew something big was about to go down. Surveillance footage from the bank only made things more suspicious. It showed Beezy entering the building, constantly looking over his shoulder, glancing around like someone was watching him. That video's now in the hands of authorities, and they're combing through every second of it, trying to find anything that links his movements to the murder. Then came a key witness. Someone ready to take the stand with heavy claims. This person says they overheard Bey talking about payment for MO3's hit. Not rumors, not whispers. A full-blown conversation tying Bey directly to the planning and payout of the deadly hit. Prosecutors now believe they've got the blueprint. Bey had the motive, the beef, the cash, and the connections. Not only was Yella Bey flexing serious cash with a stacked bank account and a bulletproof Denali to match, but now authorities are saying all that money makes him a flight risk. They believe his resources give him the ability to disappear if things start closing in. And to really drive their point home in court, prosecutors brought out one of the most chilling pieces of evidence yet, surveillance footage showing Q and Dontrell White, chasing MO3 down on Interstate 35 and gunning him down with terrifying precision. The footage was raw, brutal, and hard to watch. 44 shell casings were found at the scene. 44! That's not just a murder, that's an execution, a statement. And if Bey really was the one who ordered the hit, then it begs the question, why take such a reckless risk, especially knowing the very public history he shared with MO3? That's the part that still got folks scratching their heads. The motive isn't fully clear, not yet. But prosecutors believe if Bey truly gave the green light, he either thought he was above the law, or he seriously underestimated how messy that paper trail would get. And let's be real, the tension between Yella and MO3 wasn't a secret. Their beef was the stuff of Dallas legend. Long, loud, and layered with jealousy, competition, and straight-up street drama. They both came up grinding in the same city, chasing the same dream, to be the face of Dallas hip-hop. But as their careers blew up, so did the tension. What started as friendly competition spiraled into something way deeper and way more dangerous. At first, the shots were subliminal. Sneak disses in songs, sly captions on Instagram. But as time passed, the gloves came off. They were firing direct shots and tracks, calling each other out and letting fans pick sides. The beef wasn't just about music anymore, though it was about pride, territory, and legacy. And as the pressure built, the line between rap battles and real-life warfare disappeared. One Reddit user jumped into the online conversation about the MO3 and Yella Bey beef, writing, "Yeah, I know MO3's head started getting big, and he was talking a lot of stuff on social media. Just didn't know if that was 100% what got him killed." That comment sums up what a lot of people believe, that MO3's bold attitude, loud talk, and unfiltered presence online may have pushed an already tense situation way past the breaking point. Even though the true trigger behind MO3's murder is still debated, there's no denying that things took a dark and violent turn long before bullets started flying. Back in 2018, the feud hit another level after the sudden and tragic death of Rolly Pate, MO3's friend and a well-known Dallas comedian. Rolly had taken direct shots at Yella Bey, questioning his street credibility and ties to Oak Cliff. That move didn't go unnoticed, and it only widened the rift between the two camps. Then things got even more serious. Just one day after Rolly's death, Yella Bey himself was targeted in a drive-by shooting in Lewisville, Texas. The timing? Way too close to ignore. A lot of people believed it was retaliation, some kind of payback tied to the heated drama surrounding Rolly's murder. That moment marked a turning point in the beef, shifting it from music to mayhem. Even with all the chaos, both MO3 and Yella Bey kept denying they had real beef. They went on record downplaying the tension, trying to keep it low-key in the public eye. But fans weren't buying it. In fact, MO3 tried to cool things down himself during a 2019 interview with Vlad TV. He claimed the media blew the whole situation out of proportion, saying there wasn't anything real going on between him and Bey. But by then, the streets had already picked sides and the idea of a rivalry had taken on a life of its own. According to reports, things got real at a Dallas strip club when MO3's manager, Brandon Rainwater, was allegedly attacked by Yella Bey and his crew. Rainwater suffered a dislocated hip, a serious injury that left more than just physical scars. This wasn't just some random scuffle, it became another major moment that pushed the narrative of the beef even deeper, especially when members of Bey's crew reportedly bragged about the beatdown in a video floating around online. While Bey has mostly stayed quiet or cryptic about the whole situation, he did drop a cold response during a 2024 interview with Kenroy Vent. When asked about MO3's death, Bey shrugged it off, saying, "What was the point?" That dismissive reply hit fans hard. It didn't just sound detached, it sounded like a man with unfinished business. That one line added more weight to the belief that the beef ran deeper than either side was letting on. But then came another twist. In a separate interview, Bey seemed to switch up the energy, giving MO3 a brief nod of respect. He said, "It was a big hit. That was a big impact. It wasn't much, but it showed a glimmer of acknowledgement, maybe even regret. That quick moment of honesty completely clashed with the colder tone from before, revealing just how complicated their dynamic really was. Their history wasn't just rivalry, and it was layered with personal pain, survival, and street politics. Back in 2018, Bey himself was shot 3 times while driving, an ambush that shook the entire Dallas music scene. And when MO3 was asked about it, his response was ice cold. "You gotta stay out of the way to get hit up every day." No sympathy, just a warning. Still, despite all the tension and speculation, both MO3 and Yella Bey continued to publicly downplay the idea of a full-blown rap beef. MO3, in particular, stayed firm during interviews, repeatedly claiming he didn't have issues with anybody in the game. MO3 once said, "My job is to report like the news," framing himself as more of a storyteller than someone chasing beef. He tried to position his music as truth-telling, not troublemaking. On the flip side, Yella Bey also played it down, brushing off their clashes as nothing serious, just messing around. But even when asked about burying the hatchet, Bey admitted they'd never be on the same side, even if they squashed things. That says a lot. The full truth about their relationship? Still a mystery. But one thing's for sure, MO3's death hit Dallas hard. It didn't just leave a hole in the rap scene, it rocked the entire culture. Whether the rivalry was real hate or just competitive fire, it became a lesson in how quickly things can spiral out of control when pride, music, and the streets collide. Then there's the choice to allegedly bring someone like Qan Dontrell White into the mix, a man with a serious criminal history. That move alone raises eyebrows. And now, with a key witness reportedly ready to testify about a financial transaction tied to MO3's murder, things are getting real murky. Bey's own legal history isn't helping his case. He's no stranger to run-ins with the law. Back in 2018, he was ambushed and shot while driving on State Highway 121 in Louisville, a shooting that shook fans and made headlines. Fast forward to February 2021, and Bey was arrested in Dallas County for unlawful possession of a firearm. And that wasn't the end of it. Later that same year, he got hit with even more serious charges in Collin County: sexual assault and child endangerment. Now, to be clear, Collin County court records show that those charges were eventually dropped, and Bey was not convicted. But in the eyes of the law, and especially in the court of public opinion, all those past cases build a picture that prosecutors can use to stack pressure. Similarly, Dallas County court records show that Yella Bey's firearm possession charge was tossed out in July 2023, but the heat didn't stop there. Bey was also named in a lawsuit filed in Harris County, tied to an explosive incident involving Chris Brown and his crew. The lawsuit claimed that 4 men were assaulted after a concert at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, and somehow, Bey's name got dragged into the mix. But according to his lawyer, Bey had zero contact with the plaintiffs. Still, his name being linked to yet another headline only added fuel to the fire. It's crazy when you step back and look at it all, the fame, the fortune, the fan base, and yet, Yella Bey kept finding himself tangled up in situations that could take everything away. With his status, his money, and his reach, it makes you wonder, why take those risks? Why even be in the mix? If you're still here, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to see it. Got thoughts on the case? Drop them in the comments below. And hit that bell so you don't miss what we drop next. Because you already know, we'll be back with more.